c'est possible d'être ici avec nous en personne et aussi sur Zoom. Vous pouvez envoyer vos questions à l'avance par écrit. Vous pouvez demander vos questions en présence ici ou aussi sur Zoom. So you can ask your questions in advance in writing. You can ask your questions live at our meeting. Or if you want to ask your questions live on Zoom, we allow that too. So it's a hybrid format where we ensure that anybody who wants to participate in our council meetings can do so from the comfort of their home or here in presence at the council meeting. So before I start, I would first like to say a few words. I first want to welcome Commander Montour and acknowledge everybody on our table here. So let's see who's in the room. We have Councillor Leor Azarad, Councillor Mitch Kajowski, Councillor Stephen Early, Councillor Mike Cohen, Councillor Oren Sabag, and Councillor Andy Schuster. Merci, Commander Montour de Station 9 pour être avec nous ce soir. Vous êtes remercié pour tout le travail que vous faites pour la ville. Et si vous voulez dire quelques mots, vous pouvez avancer à le micro ici pour aviser notre ville de ce qui se passe dans la station 9, how things are going in station number 9.
J'ai commencé ma carrière il y a 17 ans. J'étais patrouilleur ici, puis je suis vraiment content de pouvoir venir ici maintenant comme commandant de chef de poste de quartier 9. Pour Côte Saint-Luc, dernièrement, oui, donc on a une excellente collaboration avec le conseil. On a une excellente collaboration avec les patrouilleurs de la sécurité publique, ce qui fait qu'on a une ville qui est très, très sécuritaire. On a entendu un peu sur les réseaux sociaux dernièrement qu'il y avait des gens qui avaient quelques inquiétudes avec des vols dans les maisons. On a eu quelques vols. C'était pas une vague, donc pour nous, c'est pas une énorme problématique qui est là. Mais quelques vols, c'est chaque fois. On va faire l'enquête, on va voir qu'est-ce qui se passe. Mais on n'a pas présentement une énorme problématique. Donc, j'ai vu quelques commentaires qui étaient sur les réseaux sociaux. Donc, je tenais à vous rassurer que chaque fois qu'on a un vol dans les maisons, on a eu le porte-à-porte qui a été fait dernièrement, justement pour pouvoir rassurer les citoyens. Puis on a aussi cet été le privilège de pouvoir, en ayant la fusion qu'on a eue avec le poste 9 et le poste 11, on a beaucoup plus de personnel. Donc, pour cet été, on va pouvoir avoir 6 cadets policiers qui vont patrouiller. On va avoir 4 policiers à vélo qui vont patrouiller. Puis vous avez peut-être tous ici, on a 2 policiers qui sont en patrouille à vélo. Donc, c'est tous des policiers qui sont en extra des patrouilles régulières. Donc, ça nous permet de pouvoir avoir une équipe presque parisienne. Merci.
Merci beaucoup pour votre travail, pour une petit résumé de la situation à Côte Saint-Luc et que tout va bien, merci, avec votre assistance. Before we start the meeting, I want to have a moment of silence as we know COVID still is with us. And as I mentioned, we have hybrid meetings. And also we would acknowledge that, I still look at the stats. So right now, the average amount of people that have died in the last 7 days are down to 5 per day. It's not, we want it to be 0, but there still are 5 people that are on average dying every day of COVID in the province of Quebec, and around 700 people who are presently in hospital. So we'll have a moment of silence, wishing for all of them to have a speedy recovery. And it is obligatory to wear a mask in this hall. So if you do come to council meetings, you need to wear a mask. So have a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, so I would also like to give a couple of very short updates, maybe not as short, some more important. But first, congratulations. It was really a pleasure to just attend the Darcy McGee Awards in the Ashkelon Gardens, which is an award ceremony hosted by our member of the National Assembly, David Birnbaum. And the award winners this year were Cindy Margulies, Dr. Rosenberg, Dorothy Zalkman Howard, and the late Noel Alexander. And each one has done so much for our community, and we want to wish them hearty congratulations. And to the family of Noel Alexander and to the recipients, the other 3 recipients, that they should continue their great work and only have happiness, and thanks for everything they have done. I also was invited this morning to a press conference that was held by B'nai B'rith, dealing with Bill 96 and the impact on the Jewish community. And I am going to read you the following statement that I gave this morning, as I think it's important, as I was asked to be a representative of a city where we have a large percentage of Jewish people living in our community. So these were my comments. Comme maire du Côte Saint-Luc et avocat, avant, j'ai pratiqué le droit d'immigration pendant plus de 25 ans. Avant de devenir maire, j'ai voyagé dans le monde entier. Et quand je suis revenu au Canada, à chaque fois, tout comme le montre le classement des Nations Unies, le Canada est le meilleur endroit au monde où vivre. Et le Québec a la qualité de vie et la culture le plus exceptionnelle. La langue devrait pas nous diviser, mais plutôt on doit célébrer notre succès en Amérique du Nord. Côte Saint-Luc est une population juive majoritaire à 73% juifs. Hampstead à côté, à 85% juifs. Et le reste de notre population, composée de nombreux autres groupes minoritaires et beaucoup des immigrants. La diversité de notre population signifie que certaines auront accès à des services en anglais, tandis que d'autres ne le pourront pas dans les domaines les plus importants de la santé, de la justice et de l'éducation. It's impossible to think that a municipality that has bilingual status like ours will have to draft our contracts in French with any English translation having no legal effect, even when all the parties to the contract are English. When we perform civil marriages, as I do and many of the members of council do, the marriage certificate must now be in French. This law makes us feel that our very existence is a threat to the French language. We are a valued minority in Quebec, and this law is taking away our fundamental rights. Chaque communauté ethnique, no, we're here. Ah, exactement. Thanks. Right. I thought I'm on Zoom too. Chaque communauté ethnique au Québec veut préserver une partie de son identité. Il peut s'agir de leur culture, de leur langue, de leur tradition ou de leur religion. C'est la même chose pour les personnes qui sont juifs, grecs, italiennes, vietnamiennes ou arméniennes. Quelles que soient nos origines, nous voulons préserver une partie de cette identité et de cette culture. So we send our kids to Hebrew school or Greek lessons or summer camps or parochial schools. We go to community events. We do everything possible to keep the traditions alive for the next generation to pass down. Il en va de même pour les franco-québécoises qui veulent également préserver leur langue, leur culture et leur identité. Du point de vue d'une personne apparent à une religion, une culture ou un groupe ethnique minoritaire, l'existence continue d'une société majoritairement francophone en Amérique du Nord est un succès extraordinaire, une inspiration même. Unlike the other groups I mentioned, the Franco-Quebecers have all the powers of a state government to help preserve what they want to preserve. But with great power comes great responsibility. Bill 96 is an abuse of power and totally irresponsible. The most obvious examples of the articles that are the articles that nullify in advance all the Charter of Right guarantees that can be nullified. As human rights lawyers and Professor Pearl Eliadis, she was in McGill University a couple of years ahead of me, she writes, no attempt has been made by the legislator to tailor the restrictions on rights to specifically address any perceived danger to the French language. Instead, every single right that could possibly be derogated from under Section 33, the Charter's notwithstanding clause, has been dispensed with. This disproportionate nature of these derogations should give rise to significant concerns. Beaucoup de choses dans cette loi m'inquiètent par la définition étroite de qui est une Québécoise anglophone et qui sera exclu de l'accès aux services gouvernementaux en anglais. Je suis inquiète pour les employés de la fonction publique qui pourraient être congédiés pour un courriel écrit en anglais. I'm worried by the anonymous denunciations that are being encouraged. I'm worried by seniors being refused service in English, by healthcare professionals who are not allowed to speak English, or may think they are not allowed to speak English. It's hard enough to understand what the doctor is saying in your own language. I strongly believe that NGOs like B'nai B'rith, who held the press conference today, as well as municipalities, schools, school boards, and private companies, can and should join together to challenge in court the parts of this law that can be challenged. Just as importantly, I think a coalition has to form to push back on the new divisive nationalism that is taking hold in Quebec, demanding meaningfully consultations with the English-speaking community of Quebec and associations such as the Quebec community networks that represent our community, so that we can hopefully work with the present provincial government to negotiate the manner in which this terrible law is going to be implemented, because it's all in the implementation of a law is how we feel it. And the court challenges will arise based on abuses of that law. So there's a lot to be done. But what I always say when people ask me about what they should do as an Anglophone or as a member of the Allophone community, and should we stay here and what should we do? As I said at the beginning of my remarks, Canada is the greatest place in the world to live, as the United Nations says, and I've traveled to basically every continent and many countries, and it's true. And Quebec is a very special place to live. There's no place with the quality of life and culture that you'll find in this small, beautiful province within Canada. And this is one moment in time. It's a very bad moment in time, but we've had many other bad moments in time in our life. And those that have stayed have prospered and done well. And it is our obligation to our children and to our friends and to our family and to our parents to stay and to realize that this is one government with two bills. There's the bill on the Charter of Values, which restricts members of our community, of the Jewish community and other religious communities from being able to participate and find employment in the public sector. And of course, this Bill 96. It's a moment in time, but it's one government and two bills that hopefully will, with time, with other governments and with time, will change. And they'll only change if those that are against them and that those who want minority rights to be respected stay here and speak up to ensure that that happens. But it will always be within the best country in the world to live, and in my opinion, the best quality of life province in which to live. So those are my comments today, and now we will move on to question period. So we have, which order? We have questions live, I guess, to go first before the questions in writing, and then the questions on Zoom. We do it in that way? Okay, so questions live first. Sharon Friedman. For the people that are here, you get to go first.
Good evening, everybody. Sharon Friedman. I understand you have an important meeting on zoning by Zoom. Well, I'm wondering why the meeting, such as an important issue as rezoning, would have to be on Zoom, and not all of us like Zoom or want to be on Zoom or whatever. I also sent both you and Dita an email, and I was surprised it was not responded to. So here's the question. Number one, I agree, District 1 needs to be rezoned. It's ridiculous to have our area attached to Walkley, which is like 100 miles away. Like, it just doesn't even make sense, and it never did to me. So that's one thing. But the other most important issue, and I raised it in front of a very large meeting in my building with about 150 people present. And again, we'd like to have an answer. And when I speak here, I'm not just speaking for Sharon Friedman. I'm speaking not only for my building, but buildings, houses, all around. What is this council's plan for DeCarry Square? Because as you know, it is zoned 4 stories only. And the area cannot handle any more congestion, cars, anything, even people. So that is really an important issue. And again, why wasn't I responded to? My building now was even more upset to hear that I wasn't responded to. But we really want to know. And the third question that I have, or the second one, is when I was at council here last week, you mentioned there's a lot of players for Cavendish. And you mentioned the federal government. Could you tell me what role does the federal government play? And are they by any chance going to give some monies under their infrastructure departments? So,
Thank you, Mrs. Friedman. Okay, so we'll try to do those questions in the order that they were presented. First of all, that was a information meeting, not a consultation meeting. A consultation meeting happens when there's a bylaw in front of us. One day there will be, because it's about the master plan. So that means at one point in time, we will pass a bylaw about our. You have to turn off. I think there's another mic on because I'm getting reverberation somehow. I think somebody has to turn off their mic. But right, so when we pass the master plan, then there'll have to be a consultation. That was not a consultation. These are information meetings that we're doing, pre-information meetings about a master plan that eventually we will present to the public after our consultants work on it. And in it, it will include the DeCarry Square, but that's just a small part. It will include it in that master plan. But these are information meetings by professionals. As you saw, it wasn't political, it was professionals that were explaining how it works. So that was the first of many. There's a whole list on our website. The next, I think the developers come and they talk about what they'd like. Doesn't mean that there's anything before this council that we have sent to our planning advisory committee to review or for council to review. It's their dream, which is fine. Everybody can have their dreams. So they will present that at the next meeting, but we're not at the stage of passing our master plan or having a consultation process. We are at the place of giving information out on how we're looking at building our master plan, and how we want to build it is by getting input like you just gave us tonight. And that's what the meeting was about. And you said it, and you're saying it, great. So you're saying the things you're saying, and we're gonna have more of those information meetings before we get to passing a master plan. In terms of the setup of District 2, yes, it is a strange district. District 1 is it was, you had to go out north of Hampstead back. So we got that part, and then we had the little other parts of town. And every district has to have a certain number of people in it in order for it to be fair. And because of the way the city evolved, it happened to be fragmented, but it's still representative. When a city council is elected, he or she knows that he has to go to the voters in different areas of town that make up that district. So it really shouldn't make a difference. Some cities work like Hampstead on no districts. We happen to work on the district system. Okay, the next question was the plan for DeCarry Square, which I sort of discussed that already. The next consultation, the DeCarry Square promoters, the Côte Saint-Luc Shopping Center promoters, and the Cavendish Mall promoters will present their vision. It's not the city's vision, it's their vision. And they'll present it. So we're always ready to listen to people's vision. It's interesting to know what developers would like to do. But it's not the city's vision. It's their vision, and that should be very clear. It hasn't gone to council, it hasn't gone to PAC. It's their vision that's being presented, not ours. That's the next information meeting, not consultation. Like I said, consultations will only come after we pass a bylaw to present our master plan. That's later, much later, not even this year. Okay. Not this year, not this year. Okay. And your last question was about Cavendish. Yeah, well, Cavendish, as we know, is move forward to the BAP, which means it's at the next step. I know we've talked about it for Cavendish for the next, I like your t-shirt. And it's been a long time coming. It appears from all things happening that now that it's gone to the Bureau d'Audience Publique, that it's moving forward. When? I don't have an exact timeline, but if things move forward in the way they should, it should be 5 to 7 years till you'll see construction, but it seems like it's moving forward. That's the reality of Cavendish. Well, we're not, I mean, the province is not, the municipalities have not made any requests to the federal government at this time because we're not there yet, but I'm sure at the appropriate time when it's being built, all levels of government will be requested to contribute based on different programs, but they're not building it today. As I said, they're just doing the studies on how they're going to build it. And they have a vision. This government, this municipal government, the city of Montreal has a vision of how they want to present it. The Cavendish extension, which is all public. And Côte Saint-Luc gave more comments to the presentation than any other. So that's that one. And the next one, that's your vision, and we'll hear the Carey Square's vision. Okay, we're not there yet. We're going to be talking about this for a long time. Okay. Listen, I'm very interested. I'm very interested in hearing from the residents and from the developers and from the entire city of Côte Saint-Luc on their wishes and goals for the future of Côte Saint-Luc in general, not just Carey Square. It's going to be a very interesting process over the next year. So we're not there yet talking about details. We're just looking for generalities. Okay. Myrna Housefather. Myrna Housefather.
Order? Should we put it in order? Well, we can't get a sheet of paper at the door. I'm sorry, we were here first. One second before anyone else.
I have all I have is 3 papers in front of me. The one name that I have is Myrna Housefather and Edna Yanko. Those are the only other names.
Here first. I think she's maybe first. All right, go.
I mean, that's up to Mrs. Housefather, but that's not.
Mayor, she was here first. Is it okay if she goes out first?
Of course, it's okay, but I didn't receive the papers in that
I'm
order.
allowing her to.
Sure, go ahead. Sure.
You're welcome. I'm going to read it out so I don't waste much time. Good evening, Mayor Brownstein and councillors and everybody around here. My name is Edna Yanko. This is my husband, Danny. In early April 2021, my husband and I walked from our condo building on Rembrandt, as we often did, to visit a friend who lives in the Meadows complex. While trying to step up onto the first level of the walkway, which is higher than other steps and only one without a handrail, my husband missed the step and I reached out to him. We both fell to the ground. My husband broke his femur, which required emergency surgery and a rehab. As a result of this accident, my husband's life, my family's life, changed overnight. His mobility began to deteriorate. He became barely ambulatory and entirely dependent on family, caregivers, and all sorts of devices and therapies. He cannot walk without a walker or a rollator, and he suffers from chronic pain. My husband is now 90 years old. Until that fateful fall, he was fully mobile, never requiring so much as a cane. He was always in excellent health for a man his age. He had never had surgery, never been hospitalized, and drove until COVID made him stop. Until the accident, pre-COVID, my husband and I led an extremely active life. You know that. We have constantly socialized and traveled on vacations and to visit our grandchildren who all live far away. Now the constant need for caregivers, medications, antidepressants, assistive devices, modifications at home, all of these have burdened us heavily with unforeseeable expenses which continue to add up and will require for the rest of his life. These escalating costs arose as a direct result of my husband's fall and fracture. I recently wrote to the property manager and condo board president, neither of whom responded. By disregarding my letter, they seem to believe that they bear no responsibility for my husband's fall. But at least one Meadows resident had complained in the past about the lack of an essential first step handrail, saying about my husband's fall that it was an accident waiting to happen. So we did. The absence of that handrail for the first step is a hazard to health and safety, not only to the residents of the complex, but to everyone, especially seniors and others with limited mobility who need to access condos on this property. Mr. Mayor, although the Meadows complex is private property, it is inconceivable that there are no safety access regulations that at the very least must also be adhered to by owners and private properties in our city, where residents also need access. Safe access should not be limited to public facilities in our city. They should be ensured everywhere and mandatory. Will you please address this health and safety issue at your earliest opportunity? At the very least, will you urge the owners and board of Meadows to install handrails next to that step and elsewhere in our city where similar safety risks may exist? I thank you, but I have a PS. It's been for years that when we visited our friend at the corner and we told her, why aren't you doing something about it? You live here. You have so many friends that come and visit you, families that come and visit you. Why does no one pay heed? I thank you for listening very, very much.
Thank you, Ms. Yanko. No, you can stand there. First of all, I want to send my deepest sympathies on the accident and wish that he recovers further. In terms of your letter, could you please give a copy of it to our city clerk, and we have a copy of that letter, and I would send it to the appropriate staff in the city in order to see how we could help avoid future accidents of this type with respect to safety standards. So if we can have a copy of that letter, because it is quite explicit of the particular accident, but also can give us some guidance for our members of our team to study. So, I mean, I don't have the answer personally. I'm not an expert in safety and security measures, but certainly there was an accident. And if there's anything the city can do to improve the situation and buildings, we would look into it. So thank you. Thank you. Philip Shadover is here. I know he's just walking in the room. He's our director of public safety, and we are quite unique in Côte Saint-Luc in terms of having, VCOPS, EMS, and public safety. So we will look into it. If you give a copy of the letter, that would be great if you would, and we will look into what we can do. We certainly don't want other accidents. Myrna, house father. Good
I
evening.
want to begin by telling you all that as a mother of a son who was a city councillor and mayor at one point, I totally understand the hard work all of you contribute to making our city a wonderful place to live in. I don't think unless you go through it personally, you realize the hours and devotion that someone puts in to maintaining the kind of standards you do. And I want to thank you for that. I want to bring up an issue. I know it's going to be voted on because I see on the paper under number 11, urban development engineering. The number C says awarding a contract for restoration of a vacant land located on Mark Chagall. I don't know what the word restoration means. This is an area where there are a lot of elderly people. Right now, there are not sufficient benches for people to sit properly. Someone brought in these old stone benches that are so obsolete and antiquated that they should be in the junkyard a long time ago. Nobody uses them. So the 3 benches that are more modern, that are near the entrance section, the first section, are used all the time, and people walk by and there's not enough space for many people, and then they have to leave. And there are people with walkers that really require sufficient space. Secondly, I have sent, well, this was with Dee many years, a year ago or more. I sent a picture recently to Tanya because I had explained the kind of tables that would be optimum for older people. A lot of people are desiring to play mahjong or bridge or samba outdoors. And yes, you put up some tables, there's no shading, and they're not the kind of tables that I had sent the picture of. We wanted tables that had the wider high backs, which we had 60 different individuals try out the tables that you have just outside the building here, and a few that you had in Trudeau Park. And everybody came to the same conclusion that the ones that had the wide, broad backs were the ones that people with difficulty could sit down comfortably and play and have room to put their walker beside, etc. You do have some tables there now, but they're not the ones that were requested. So I would urgently ask if at some point you're able to send these tables elsewhere and get the 2 like you have close to your parking lot right now outside that have the wide backs. Please, those are the ones that people want to use. Those are the ones that the seniors are waiting for. And we have waited 3 years to have a park that would be serviceable to us. And as of today, we still don't have it. So please, I know we want it to be a lovely park at some point, and I understand there are budget limitations, but at least the proper seating arrangements and proper grass should be done immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. So everyone did tonight to deal with grass. We're satisfied with the seating for the facade, which means full grass, and that's the item that we're passing tonight. And I know that BB had a plan to do this year. She's working on it. I know you did a blog on it, and I want to speak to it. I know you did this very hard on that space. Would you like to add anything else to Colin? Go ahead.
Can't hear you, Mr. Mayor.
I don't hear you, Mike. You're not realizing? Okay. I don't know if you heard me, Councilor Cohn, if you wanted to add something. We will take note of what we can do further, but the item on the agenda today is to replace the seeds with sod, meaning real strips of grass. Right.
We will follow up. Councillor Cohen, I believe you're hearing what's going on in the meeting, and it is your district, so we will follow up with that request.
I can't hear you still, Mr. Mayor. There's a problem with your volume. I didn't hear what you said.
Have you heard what I said?
I said I didn't really hear what you said.
Okay, so it's fine. I'll update you after if you want to come into the break.
I do want to address that issue. I spoke to Mrs. Housefather just shortly ago on that issue, and of course, I told her that council must vote on the change, and that's happening tonight. So nothing could be done until after tonight. And after tonight, if it's approved, we're going to have exactly what we expected on that land and more. It's going to be a very beautiful site in the next few weeks.
The question though is to add the benches.
There are going to be new benches there. There's going to be trees. There's going to be a pathway. There's going to be new lighting put up. It's going to look like a new park. And I know Councillor Kujavsky's on the Public Spaces Committee. So with his mask on, please, he can give an update.
We're not doing see it, is what I'm saying. We did see it, and now we're going to, an item on the agenda tonight is changes.
So what we're doing is we're laying strips of grass.
That's not gonna help.
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Our seating, I thought you said seating. We're at two separate seasons. We take the points of advisement and let Councillor Kujavsky get anything down.
I just wanted to mention, well, first of all, my mask is off because I'm slowly sipping my coffee. Second of all, I did speak with Associate City Manager Abramovich today about that exact issue. We had that discussion about what council will be voting on tonight regarding the replacement of the sod in the park. And she is on the file. So she's currently, I believe, researching some items that you sent her, Myrna. I'm Southfather, apologies. Researching different benches, different tables that are accessible for seniors, because we know that now we know through some information that I believe you sent to Tanya that, yeah, there are tables that are easier to get up from, easier to sit down on for seniors with different disabilities well, not with disabilities, but that make it much easier to get up and sit down at these tables and benches. So Tanya's researching it, and that information is going to be shared with Public Works for improvements to the park once we get the grass down and once it's established.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, so our next questioner is Michael Shafter.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Whenever anybody mentions to me that Montreal is the Paris of North America, I say, oh yeah, and Côte Saint-Luc is the Long Island, New York City of Canada. There is something special about this place. Bilingual status, appealing to our diversity. The best EMS and public security. To celebrate First Nations Day, to celebrate Canada Day and Quebec Day. So I just thought one more thing that my children would appreciate now that they've all moved to Côte Saint-Luc. Slow down the speeds. How do you do it? Simply by adding an adhesive to the speed sign of the citation speed, just a little bit above the posted speed. I think that everybody fearing to go over that speed will keep it a lot closer to the posted speed. You can make comment, you can think about it over the summer recess. Would you like to make comment?
Okay, so we do have a lot of ideas in terms of reducing speed, and of course the police are our best allies in radar traps. But the other things that we have done, I don't know if you go to Western Côte Saint-Luc and you've taken a look, we have a lot of these sidewalks now that we're building out. Of course, we've always had speed bumps, we're adding them, but your idea is good. So the Director of Communications could study the thought of posting more information on what the ticket would be. I assume what you're saying, what the ticket would be if you go above a particular speed.
I stand on behalf of not only our children, but our seniors. Most people know what to do. Other people jaywalk. Other people take a little more time to cross the streets. With the grace of God, they get to the other side. So give it some thought. I'd like you to be the first municipality on island to do it because you guys are the first to do everything. Thank you.
Thank you. We certainly keep on trying. Thank you. Okay, so are there any further questions? If not, we will move to the next item of business, which is approval of the minutes. Are there? Yes, go ahead. Written questions or others? Go ahead. Are you going to read the question?
Yes, I will read the question.
Excellent.
I'm just accessing it now. It is from Mr. Norman Sabin, and the question reads as follows. 5757 Cavendish, corner Kildare, is a 4-story office building. RBC is on the ground floor, as was Police Station 9 until 2018. Koji Real Estate now owns the building as of April 2022. I visited the building 2 weeks ago to check out office space for a medical clinic. As there is no restaurant in the building, I couldn't help but imagine a Tim Hortons on the ground floor. Cavendish and Kildare is a transport hub in Côte Saint-Luc with many pedestrians, students, seniors, and cars in the area and lots of potential customers. I therefore have a few questions. Number one, is 5757 Cavendish zoned for a restaurant? Second question, would council have to approve a lease between Tim Hortons and Koji? And third question, would Tim Hortons be allowed to build a drive-through subject to its lease and permit from Côte Saint-Luc?
I don't think we get into the leasing business, but it's not zoned for a restaurant. And the owner of the building would have to apply for a rezoning for that use. And because of its location at the corner of a very busy street, would probably not be the best place to have a drive-through and even a restaurant because there's very little parking at that corner. But right now it is not zoned for a restaurant. Okay, do we have any other questions?
No, Mr. Mayor, that was it.
Thank you. So we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes. Councillor Cohen, are you want to come into the room for this one, please?
It's okay. I'll let Councillor Kujawski approve the minutes.
Okay, you have to be here for one item. Anyway, okay, Councillor Kujawski. You have to pick an item, but anyway, Councillor Kujawski. Okay, Councillor Cohen, approval of the minutes. He's on his way. We're trying to do hybrid meetings, so I want to explain this. So Councillor Cohen is immunocompromised, as am myself. I'm wearing an N95. Everything should be okay. But we're trying to, we asked the province, would be allowed to have hybrid meetings, meaning those that feel more comfortable should be able to leave the room. They haven't given us the authority to do so as of yet, but under the City and Towns Act, you only have to be here in the room for one item in order to be deemed present. So we're doing our own hybrid meetings. So he takes votes on an item and then he's considered here and he can go in the back. So go ahead, move by Councillor Cohen. Seconded by Councillor Erdely. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Now we move to the next item, which is business arising from the minutes. Any business arising from the minutes? Item number 4, departmental reports. Councillor Schuster.
Can you hear me? Test?
Yes, Councillor
Okay.
Schuster, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. The monthly reports submitted for May 2022 B and are hereby approved as drafted.
Moved by Councillor Schuster, seconded by, who'd like to second it? Councillor Sabag. All in favor? Oh, first I want any comments. Any comments on the departmental reports? Who'd like to go first on the departmental reports? Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll update on a few items. I'll start on the finance portfolio. Till the end of May 31st, these are the claims that have been processed. So we have 129 claims for water filters. And again, reminder to residents that until your service lines are replaced, which for those residents who live in areas that may have lead, you're eligible for rebates, both for under sink filters, above sink filters, pitcher, and the large water bottles as well. So you're eligible for rebates for those. We encourage you to go to our website. Again, 129 to date, and we have done process 18 charger rebates, electric car chargers for homes. I know on council we have a few already, and we have some who will be purchasing electric vehicles shortly. And there's an item later on the agenda, which I'll speak to that point. But again, we encourage residents, if they're able to purchase electric vehicles, of course, use public transit and help reduce greenhouse gases. On the finance side as well, one of the other key items has been to refinance some of the bonds. And I'll be speaking more to this when we get to the disbursements for the month. On the environmental side, we had our compost giveaway on May 19th. The weather, I remember that day, the weather did not cooperate. However, we still had 175 residents who came out, received compost. They also received tomato plants or plant kits, daisy planting kits, and some small trees as well were given out on that day. Also, in terms of agriculture, I wanted to mention how beautiful the flower pots for those residents who've been driving on some of our main streets. You may have noticed, and I want to thank Public Works for doing that. I noticed in particular, they put these new ones on Côte Saint-Luc Road, which are beautiful. So again, I'm happy to see those. Also in terms of planting, the city has given out in the last month 24 subsidized trees. So these are trees either for residents who want to plant trees on their own property or who had to cut down a tree and are eligible for a rebate or reduced fee to purchase a tree. So I encourage residents to go to our city website. And the goal, of course, is again to have our residents plant as many trees as possible. And finally, in terms of VCOP, I want to mention we're again back up, not yet at our pre-COVID numbers, but 35 shifts over the last month. And I want to thank, we have one of our VCOP members, Elaine, here. So thank you to those who are volunteering. And we hope, of course, to get more and more as COVID, of course, hopefully becomes less of an issue, although we know it's not necessarily gone. We hope we'll have more and more residents returning to VCOP and continuing to volunteer. So we thank you for that. And that's it for me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Anyone else? Anyone else like to speak? Oh, Councillor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I was on mute there. On the public safety side, lots of things going on. We're continuing to make sure that our public safety agents are well trained for many different events. We use the new academy on May 9th to be able to continue making sure that they're up to date with different measures. The overall situation that the police commander talked about, I wanted to address a couple of words on that. It's true that sometimes we read on social media and sometimes things can be amplified if you only focus on what's being said. But I'm glad to see that we heard it directly from the commander himself, that stated that, these are isolated events, that they follow through, making sure that everybody is aware that the police is involved, and making sure that we have at least a continuity of the police work throughout the whole process. In terms of medical services, in terms of statistics, 99.8% of our shifts were covered by EMS, with 233 calls. That equates to over 1,800 hours of volunteer work. And I wanted to mention some great notable mentions for years of service. We have Michel Lessard, 16 years, Yvon Martinbeau, 15 years, Eddie Afram, our own director, with 9 years at EMS, Ryan Burns, 8 years, Irina Machulina, 4 years, Mark Nadler, 4 years, Tanya Adam, 3 years, Nikita Kalashnikov, 3 years, Jonathan Sokol, 3 years as well, Paris Tovaras, 3 years, and then we have Giovanni D'Arienzo, Elliot William Robinson, myself, Atik Siddiq, which was one of the partners at the Academy, and Kia Saint-Pierre as well, all 1 years of service. And I thank you all for this wonderful gift that you're giving our city each and every day. That's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. Great report. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Schuster?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For recreation, in May, day camp staff started their staff training, and I've been dropping into some of their sessions. I have a lot of confidence in this year's set of counselors. They have a lot of enthusiasm, and they're getting really great training from coordinator Sarah Houle. So we look forward to day camp starting at the end of June. We have a new event coming, National Indigenous Day on Tuesday, June 21st at Trudeau Park from 6 to 9 p.m., where we will welcome the Buffalo Hat Singers, who will perform and share their artistry and culture, and it's sure to be an entertaining and educational experience for all. Make a splash this Fête Nationale. Join us poolside at the Parkhaven Outdoor Pool for Saint-Jean on Friday, June 24th from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., where there will be music, dancing, a photo booth, and lots of fun for all. Friday, July 1st is Canada Day, of course. Canada Day festivities are taking place at Wager Field, where we'll be coming together as a community to enjoy the day with music, special presentations, and some fireworks at nightfall. And if you happen to be missing the activities of the Côte Saint-Luc Dramatic Society, as I am, please come and watch or take part in the Côte Saint-Luc Dramatic Society Summer Work Series, where fun and friendly performance workshops will be given at the Rembrandt Amphitheater. And that's about it for me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. Anyone else?
I have my hand up, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cohen. Councillor Cohen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll lower my hand. There we go. Thank you. First of all, I had one of my District 2 Advisory Committee meetings. I have a District 2 Advisory Committee of people from various streets and buildings. We meet a few times a year, and I'll have a larger district meeting at some point. Councillor Schuster and I are talking about doing one together. We were going to do one, but we didn't want to interfere with the consultation on the master plan last week. So I had a very good meeting. It was all on the record. We had a briefing about the new municipal pool bylaws that are coming into effect, among other things. And it's on my YouTube channel. So if people go to youtube.com/Mike Cohen CSL, they could see my YouTube page and get the video. We gave our local merchant, we recognized a local merchant, Dr. Jordan Nemes, who's the new orthodontist on the Avenue, and was pleased to present him with the certificate, and not to let Dr. Marvin Steinberg be forgotten, who's been there for about 4 decades. I did a podcast with him. My podcast has turned into kind of a local podcast inspired by Oren Sabag, who was the originator of the Côte Saint-Luc podcast. I'm hoping for a comeback, Oren, from your podcast. So I've been doing a lot of that profiles, and it was very well received. Dr. Steinberg had some great anecdotes, and I'll be continuing to profile different people in my constituency in Côte Saint-Luc. Looking forward to Andy Schuster and Lior Azarad, who will unveil, I believe, very soon our next local merchant in their district. So I won't spoil the surprise. We'll wait for their announcement, and other councillors too, to provide us with some interesting individuals. We have engaged a summer student working with Daryl Levine, and she's going to be developing over the next 2 months a very comprehensive booklet of our local commerce with contact numbers, and it's going to help us communicate with them more and try to have some strategy meetings with them, and maybe some town halls and so on and so forth. The speed humps in certain areas are going up. I'm hoping in the next week. I spoke to engineering today. I know people on Marc Chagall have been waiting for the speed hump, given the cars that are racing down the street, and we're hoping for one as well at the back entrance of Sir Walter Scott, back entrance of City Hall parking lot. The snow dump, thank you to Public Works, has the mountain has been cut down, and it's now pretty much leveled off. So that's great news. I know it's a huge job they have to do every year. Finally, just a reminder that the Golf Classic honoring former councillors Glenn Nash and Sam Goldblum will be August the 9th at Meadowbrook. We have some spots available for members of council to sign up and join us on the links. So please be in touch with Anissa Cameron. And for members of the public, registration right now, it's for the men's club. And they're getting the first spot since they're a co-sponsor of the event. Manny Young is co-chairing with Dita Burku and I. As of June 17th, it opens up to the public, and we expect to sell out this year, and we expect very good weather. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Okay, Councillor Kujawski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank, well, I guess on behalf of Councillor Burku, who is, I believe, en route home, if I'm correct. For those who attended our master plan, our first public consultation on our master plan, I believe we had well over 100 people in attendance, or 120 or 130. And for those who were unable to watch the live information session, to watch it from the Engage website, which is cotesaintluc.org/engage. So please check that out. We'll be having another one down the road for the master plan, which is extremely important. It's very important for our citizens to weigh in as well, because this is the future of Côte Saint-Luc, and this is something that will help to build out our city in the next decade plus. I just wanted to mention as well regarding the park known as currently Emerald Park. The construction is going very well. The basketball court, the half basketball court, will be painted this week. I saw the lampposts go in today by Public Works. So thanks to the Public Works Department for doing those installations and for beginning that work on the park. Should be completed in the next 3 weeks or so, but then they'll be laying new grass down. So the park will be closed until that new grass is established. So we're talking a lot about grass tonight. This week we saw the frame for the chalet for Kerwin Park go up. So that's starting to come together. It's starting to begin to look like it will look once the project is finished. I know that was a lot of words. I think they made sense in my brain. So Kerwin is starting to come together, and it's nice to see. And we're a good 2.5 months or so away from a completion date, anticipated completion date. I just received a message from our associate city manager. September is the next master plan consultation. So sign up when the time comes and participate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Justin.
All right, anybody else to speak? Others will call for the vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We'll move to the next item, which is the Financial and Information Technology Services. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council authorizes the city treasurer to close the reserve account for insurance premiums and deductibles, and further authorizes the monies of $100,000 to be transferred to the unrestricted surplus.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion? Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll just clarify this. So basically, this was set up several years ago, where at the time our insurance provider asked that the city put a reserve, set up a reserve of $100,000. Now, this was back in a time where we had a lot more water main breaks and other issues. I'm happy to report that, of course, we've managed to cut down on the number of water main breaks by more than 50%. Actually, I believe it's closer to 60% over the years, partly because of all the sleeving we've done, which is about 25% of all the pipes in the city that have been sleeved. Now, at the time, we were having a lot of complaints about water main breaks. So what we did was we put a reserve of $100,000. Over time, again, we've reduced the amount of water main breaks. We've also changed insurance providers. And because of that, we're no longer required to have this reserve. So all that to say, the $100,000 that was in an official reserve for insurance is now being transferred to our unrestricted surplus, so that if we need it, we can use it for other projects such as Kerwin Park or other projects as may deemed necessary by the city. Thank you.
Good news. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to item 5B. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the attached list of disbursements for the period of May 1st, 2022 to May 31st, 2022 for a total amount of $10,326,250.55 in Canadian funds, and that treasurer certificate number 22-0094 dated June 2nd, 2022 has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll share. So normally our disbursements in an average month is about $3 to $4 million. So this one is just over 10 million. About 6 million of that is due to two capital bond repayments, bond 27 and bond 30. So as I mentioned previously, the way it works with the city, we will borrow money for a large project. Even though the amortization period, let's say, could be 20 years, we borrow it, but every 5 years we renew the mortgage, so to speak. So we renew the terms. So this is just the capital bonds are being repaid on these loans that we renewed every 5 years. And those account for, of course, the largest part. Some of the other big items we have are monthly fees for our water management to CMO. We also purchased a new tanker truck, which I've seen on the road, actually. It's beautiful, which replaced the 2004 vehicle, so one that was about 18 years old, that was past its prime, and our insurance premiums, which will be adopted a bit later this evening, was also one of the major disbursements over the past month. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And we move to item 5C, which is awarding of a contract for case management system and CRM software licenses. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's two resolutions that are similar, but I'll start with the first one. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract to Salesforce.com Canada Corporation for the purchase of a case management system and CRM software in the amount of $48,984 plus applicable tax, and the treasurer certificate number TC 22-0099 dated June 3rd, 2022 has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Azarad. Any discussion?
So I'll explain what this is. So the city, of course, like any institution, has been working on improving our customer service resources. So, for example, if I think back several years ago, we put a series of 4 digits, so 2 letters and 2 numbers on every street light, on every lamppost in the city. And we did it because, you can imagine at the time, residents would call, there's a light burnt out on my street. And of course, we would end up having multiple reports of the same pole with different descriptions. So we numbered every pole, and that helped, that was one system that helped. Now, what we found, of course, over time is we need to continue to improve and continue to grow. And what we are doing is hiring sales, or let's say, hiring or paying for an annual fee for Salesforce.com, and that's what this is, for them to supply us with a CRM, so basically a customer service software that will allow us to better manage the way we handle complaints from the public in terms of potholes, in terms of burnt out streetlights, in terms of issues with sidewalks and so on. And of course, we hope that it'll improve we hope residents will see that improvement and will become more efficient in the way we handle complaints from the public. Thank you. Oh, and actually I want to say thank you to, I don't know if I see him, our Director of Communications.
Right there, Darryl Levine.
And Public Relations, to Darryl Levine, who's been instrumental in getting this up and running. So both this resolution and the next one as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously. And now we move to item 5D. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll read this resolution and I'll explain. So be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract to MuniPass for the integration of a case management system and CRM software in the amount of $64,000 plus applicable taxes. That Treasurer Certificate number TC 22-0100 dated June 3rd, 2022 has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Azzaran. Any discussion?
So the first of the two resolutions was for the annual license fee for Salesforce, for the CRM software or the case management software. So this resolution, the second one, is for the initial setup and training. So you can imagine this is a software that will involve many members of city staff at different levels. You can imagine the finance department, recreation, public works, engineering. So it involves a lot of training, and we need to make sure that we're getting the full use of the software. So this is a one-time fee, like I said, for the installation and for the training in order to maximize the use of this new software. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Looking forward to it. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously, and we move on to the next item, Human Resources, 6A, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Hiring it.
Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the hiring of Scott Goodman as an office agent, full-time, permanent, white-collar position, effective May 31st, 2022. And that Treasurer Certificate number 22-0095 dated June 2nd, 2022 has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion?
So just to share, so this hire is to replace an employee who is no longer with the city. So this is one of the people who will be working on the front line. So for those who visit our finance department, Scott will be one of the people working on the front lines, and I believe his spot is on the right side. So when you first enter City Hall and you're facing the finance, his position will be on the right, facing the public.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to 6B, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the hiring of Adam Locke as a library technician, part-time auxiliary, white-collar position, effective May 9, 2022, and that Treasurer Certificate number 22-0096 dated June 2nd, 2022 has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion?
So just to mention briefly, Adam Locke has extensive experience, both with a master's in library and information studies and experience working in other libraries, and will be working as an auxiliary part-time library technician.
Okay, so it has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And now we move to item C, Councillor Azarad. Hiring of 2 general laborers.
Thank you, Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the hiring of Michael Tremblay and Marianne Vanyov Krylov as general laborers, full-time auxiliary blue-collar positions effective May 31st, 2022. That the treasurer's certificate number 220097 dated June 2nd, 2022 has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Azarad, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion? It is what it says.
Exactly, straight up.
All in favor? Carried unanimously. And we move to the next item, which is hiring of a day camp junior counselor. Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I have a correction. It's
Did I miss one?
6D. Yes, 6D, the status
Oh, the
change.
change of the status change. I guess you're doing them both, right?
Yes,
You're
I
doing
am.
D and E and E. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council ratifies the status change of the position of Community Partnership Coordinator, currently held by Anissa Lee Garbett Cameron, from contract to permanent effective March 15th, 2022.
Moved by Councillor Schuster, seconded by Councillor Sabag, I believe. Any discussion on the change?
Just the fact that it's a contract going to permanent. We know Anissa Cameron from her work with the Côte Saint-Luc Dramatic Society, and she's been working as the partnership coordinator and is working out very well.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we go to E. Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one moment, please. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the hiring of Layla Silberger as Day Camp Junior Counselor, full-time auxiliary seasonal white-collar position effective May 29th, 2022. That Treasurer's Certificate number 22-0098 dated June 2nd, 2022 has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Schuster, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion?
Previously, all day camp staff were hired in one resolution, and a list was provided as an addendum. We have continued to hire day camp staff, and then so this person is separate from those previously listed.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously. We move to legal services. Councillor Sabag will be doing them all. Go ahead.
Give me a sec. I'll unmute myself. And here we go. Be it resolved that the preamble forms an integral part thereof, as if cited here and after at length, that an additional expenditure not exceeding $2,500 be reserved, and that the city of Dorval continue to be designated to receive the payments for the McCarthy Tetreault SEN CRL SRL legal fees for all municipalities involved in this action.
He didn't do it. Okay.
That the attorney at McCarthy Tetreault SEN CRL SRL be and hereby authorized to represent the city of Côte Saint-Luc in its role as a mise en cause regarding the proceedings, and any representation previously conducted be and is hereby ratified.
Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Sabag. That's item B you're doing. You're going to do A after, but that's fine.
We can do A after.
Yeah,
Oh.
so that's fine. Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Azarad, and any explanation, discussion. So it's to cover legal expenses for the lawsuit on the Code Par with the city of Beaconsfield.
Right, and I also forgot to mention, it's also to allow any attorney at McCarthy Tetreault to make representations in the lawsuit, not just one particular attorney from the firm.
Okay, thank you. So moved and seconded. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to item 7A.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the council hereby ratifies and approves the city's insurance contracts and corresponding deductibles, which are annexed herewith as Annex A entitled Regroupement des municipalités de l'île de Montréal, Côte Saint-Luc, note de couverture numéro MTL 2257396, assurance de dommages 2022 à 2023 bloc B to form an integral part of the minutes with their corresponding premiums payable to BFL Canada Risque et Assurance Inc. from January 1st, 2022 to January 1st, 2023, that the preamble of this resolution forms an integral part thereof as if cited herein after at length, that the City of Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby approves payment of the premiums to BFL pursuant to invoice number 508551 dated March 3rd, 2022 for the amount of $271,436.52, including applicable taxes, that the Treasurer Certificate number 22-0089 dated March 3rd, 2022 was issued by the City Treasurer to attest the availability of funds to cover the above described expense.
Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Azarad. Any discussion on that one? Okay, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We go to 7C.
Mr. Mayor, just
Yes.
a very technical amendment that I just noticed myself. The insurer modified the term of the policy from February 16th, 2022 to February 16th of 2023. So with council's authorization, I'd like to indicate that in the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
All right, so that's it. And now we go on to item C.
That's right. Item C is mine. That is a clerical correction that I am hereby filing before council pursuant to Article 92.1 of the Cities and Towns Act. In one particular case, our bylaw 2595 made reference in Article 66 to Article 25, and the legislative reference should have been Article 26. So because this is a mere clerical correction, I've made the correction, but I've also disclosed it to council, and I am tabling this correction during tonight's council meeting, and it'll form part of the minutes.
Thank you, Maitre Schechter. And then we move on to the resolution to change the October meeting. So that would be Councillor Sabag. It's the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the council hereby modifies its regular council sitting date in October 2022 from October 3rd, 2022 at 8 p.m. to October 13th, 2022 at 8 p.m.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Azarad. That is for the election that's happening on October 3rd. That's why we're changing it. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move to Parks and Recreation, which is item number 8A. And we have Councillor Schuster, I guess. Schuster, 8A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved, why am I hearing an echo? Be it resolved that bylaw entitled Bylaw 2597, creating the fee schedule for cultural, sports, and leisure activities for fall of 2022 and winter of 2023 be and is hereby adopted and numbered 2597.
Moved by Councillor Schuster, seconded by Councillor Kajewski. Any discussion? You sometimes get feedback if the person next to you has their mic on as well. So I try to turn mine on and off as much as I can, but you know, sometimes I miss. So everybody should do the same. Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just an explanation that this is the schedule of programming and their related pricing, nothing more.
Excellent. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we go to public safety. We have two notices of motion and tabling that will be done by Councillor Sabag. 9A, please. Thank you, Councillor Sabag. And there's a tabling of the bylaw. So that is to deal with the graffiti issue on buildings. Right, and then we go to 9B.
Unmute, sorry guys. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a tabling of draft bylaw 2598 entitled Bylaw to Regulate Cinematographic and Advertisement Filming on the territory of the city of Côte Saint-Luc.
Thank you. And a tabling of the draft bylaw.
And a tabling of that bylaw, yes.
Thank you. So excellent. That's in order to regulate filming and advertising of filming on our territory, which we certainly encourage.
I think this is in order to make sure that city resources are adequately used and remunerated by the production companies.
Right, excellent. So there's no vote on that because it's a notice of motion and tabling, and we move to item number 10, Public Works. Councillor Azarad.
Thank you, Mayor. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby awards a contract for the removal of buckthorn and the restoration of vegetation in Nathan Schuster Park in 2022, year 2022, to Comité Écologique du Grand Montréal for an amount not to exceed $69,999.80 plus applicable taxes. That's a Treasurer Certificate number 220101, has been issued on June 6th, 2022, to attest to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses. That the City General Council hereby be authorized to sign the above mentioned contract on behalf of the city.
Moved by Councillor Azarad, seconded by Councillor Schuster. Any discussion?
Just a quick note on that. So there was some felling of some trees, and there was some understory vegetation that needed to be removed, which is the buckthorn, which disturbs the native vegetation. So there will also be some replanting there. So it's basically a whole re-beautifying of Schuster Park.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to the next item.
Mr. Mayor, I just didn't note the seconder for this one. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, now we move to item number B, which is a notice of motion of tabling. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hereby give notice of motion that bylaw 2537-1 to be entitled bylaw 2537-1, amending bylaw 2537, entitled bylaw to regulate the collection and disposal of residual materials in order to amend the provisions regarding waste collection will be presented at a later meeting for adoption. Furthermore, I'm mentioning the scope and object of the bylaw. And finally, I'm tabling the draft bylaw as well.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. And now we move. Go ahead, explain what it is.
If I may just share a little bit. So a few of the key items, and you'll hear more about this, of course, when the bylaw is fully adopted, but I just want to give a little preview for those watching in the audience and watching at home. So one of the concerns and complaints we've heard from residents is we know it's difficult in terms of the rolling bins that they have, the black bins that residents have, that they're not always able to fit all their waste in there. Although, of course, we know that about 80% of the material is either recyclable or compostable, but 40% recyclable, 40% compostable. So we hope residents will continue to separate their waste as much as possible. However, we know there are occasions where they do have extra. And one of the things that we will be offering are surplus bags. So special bags that residents can purchase from Public Works. So if they do have an event, with a large members of family, a group of family members or friends or whatnot, they can purchase these bags. So you'll be hearing more about that in the upcoming weeks and months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. And now we move on to item C, Councillor Kajewski. The leaf blowers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Indeed, the leaf blowers. Okay, so I hereby give notice of motion that bylaw 2470-2 to be entitled bylaw 2470-2, amending bylaw 2470 entitled bylaw to regulate nuisance in order to amend the provisions concerning leaf blowers will be presented at a later meeting for adoption. I mentioned as well the object and scope of bylaw 2470-2 to be entitled bylaw 2470-2, amending bylaw 2470 entitled bylaw to regulate nuisance in order to amend the provisions concerning leaf blowers. I as well table draft bylaw 2470-2 entitled bylaw 2470-2, amending bylaw 2470 entitled bylaw to regulate nuisance in order to amend the provisions concerning leaf blowers.
Excellent, and that means that only in the fall of the spring.
Oh, you're muted, Mr. Mayor.
So that means that in the fall and the spring, only in the fall and the spring, so the dates are from September 1st till May 31st, meaning the fall and the spring, you'll be allowed to use leaf blowers between the hours of 8 to 5 p.m. So we're restricting hours and time. So basically you get June, July, and August without leaf blowers for the summer. Okay, so that's what that's about. Yep.
This is any type of leaf blower, not just electric or gas.
I believe the bylaw is for two-stroke gas leaf blowers. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, or Maître Schechter. I think we'd have to get clarification, but I believe it's for two-stroke gas-powered leaf blowers, the ones that are far more powerful than the electric versions and more noisy as well.
Yeah. And also the bylaw is slated to come into force on April 28th, 2023. That would be when
April 28th, 2023.
Three.
So that means it will be good for next season. If it's April 20, that would mean it would be April. So from
Right.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Mr. Mayor, on a point of order.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at Article 9.5 of the updated bylaw, and I believe it applies to any leaf blower. Notwithstanding Article 9.4, creating or tolerating any noise emanating from a leaf blower. So it specifies any leaf blower, electric or gas. Obviously, that's something we're still at the draft bylaw, so it's something we could review. But right now, the current bylaw includes all leaf blowers, both electric and gas powered.
Right. The intention is still during the seasons when a lot of leaves are falling, which is spring and fall, you'll be able to use them. But we want the summer months when there's not the need really for them to the same extent for them not to be used.
If I may add, the issue of leaf blowers, part of it, of course, is the gas powered, but part of it is the dust or residue that's blown up in the air, which can get in people's eyes and their lungs and so on. So it's, I think, nuisance on multiple levels. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing. Like, obviously, the more powerful the leaf blower, the more particulates are going to enter the air. The spirit of this bylaw is to try to limit the pollution and the particulates that we're kicking into the air that's ruining our air quality, and as well from a noise pollution point of view. So, you know, the most powerful of the leaf blowers are the two-stroke gas. So, I mean, perhaps we could clarify in the bylaw, but I think it's probably best just to, you know, to have an outright ban, because they all do noise damage and send particulates into the air that affect our air quality. So I don't know, it's a discussion we can have prior to the final adoption.
Thank you, Councillor Kajewski. Okay, good. So that is done. I think we're done everything in public works now, and we're going to go to urban development. Urban development, Councillor Erdely, 11A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Everything organized here.
Which is additional professional fees for Kerwin.
Yep. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby approves the change order for additional works under project C-06-18P for professional services regarding the refurbishing of Edward J. Kerwin Park and Allen Levine Playground and authorizes payment of an amount not to exceed 150,000 plus applicable taxes to Stantec Expel Conseil Limité, that the described expenses shall be financed as follows: $100,000 plus applicable taxes from loan bylaw 2524, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales et de l'Habitation, and $50,000 plus applicable taxes from the unrestricted cumulative surplus. That the city treasurer has issued a treasurer certificate 22-0075 on June 3rd, 2022, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Kajowski. Yeah, any discussion?
Yeah, if I may, just to share a little bit. So what we've seen, of course, over time is the project that was originally planned for Kerwin Park has grown, in scope and in cost, and as well, I should say, in the time, in terms of the timeline of the project. So when we had originally approved the professional services or the engineering company that would oversee the work, at the time it was based on a smaller scope project, a smaller scale, a shorter timeline. And through discussions, we came to an agreement on some extra costs to cover both, again, the larger costs associated with the project, the longer timeline, and we feel this is reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So it's carried unanimously for Kerwin Park. And now we move on to B, which is Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the item I'm most excited about on the agenda. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby appoints the city's general counsel to be the signatory on behalf of the city for the partnership agreement for the deployment of electric vehicle charging stations and the financial contribution agreement with Hydro-Québec in regard to the installation of an electric charging station on Bailey Road at a price to be agreed by the parties.
Moved by Councillor Erdely and seconded by. I'm still on mute.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Smack. Any discussion?
So if I may share, so this is in effect, or this will in effect become the first electric charging station, EV charging station on a street in Côte Saint-Luc. It's taken a little while. So the charging station actually will be a double. So for 2 cars will be on Bailey across from Fletcher Park. So near the Olymbec or police station shopping center. The purpose is to give an opportunity for residents who live in the village area in District 4. What we know is that many of the apartment buildings, the condos, are a bit older and don't necessarily have the hookup for individuals who want to charge their car within the garages of the buildings. So this will be ideal for those living in the apartment buildings, in the condos in the area, to be able to charge their car. I see already actually a few just parking in general. This will be an opportunity for them to be able to charge their vehicle within the district. And of course, we'll start with 2, but we imagine and we hope this will be the beginning of many. So this is sort of a pilot project. As you know, we have many right now, but they're all in parking lots. So for example, at the Côte Saint-Luc City Hall, we have at the Aquatic and Community Center, we're going to be installing some over the next few weeks and few months at the Trudeau Park or Arena parking lot. And I just want to share in terms of the cost, that the total cost of the project, we estimated about $27,000, of which we are getting $24,000 from this grant. So it will cost the city about $3,000, so which is quite a small cost considering that the benefit this will bring to many residents in the area. So again, I'm very happy. This is one I've been pushing for a while, and I want to just take a quick moment to thank Dahlia Mohammed and Charles Senecal in our engineering and urban development department, and our associate city manager Tanya Abramowicz, who've been working on this behind the scenes, and looking forward to seeing the charging stations in action again on Bailey across from Fletcher Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Okay, so now we move to 11C, Councillor Cohen. Restoration of vacant land. Mark
Unmute.
Shigell.
I just need to unmute myself because I have the agenda open on the same page. Yes, Mr. Mayor, it gives me great pleasure to move that the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby awards a contract to Construction Morival Limited for the restoration of grass on the vacant lot 1560759, situated on Mark Chagall Avenue, for a total amount of $34,761 plus applicable taxes. That treasurer certificate number 220092, dated May 27th, 2022, has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Kajewski, perhaps. Okay, Councillor Erdely. Any discussion, Councillor Cohen?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as we know, this land was used as a parking lot for the developers of the Equinox for more than 3 years. We had no choice. They had to use this land, otherwise people had nowhere to park on the street. They were supposed to restore the land back to the condition they found it. They did not do that. They were asked to restore it. They were unable to do that properly. We tried to do hydro seeding last October. It didn't take, but I appreciate the work of all of our staff who have lived up to their commitment to make sure that this land is not only put back together the way it was found, but in fact, it's going to be quite beautiful, much nicer. Right now, we have a temporary picnic area. They're going to be installing a lot of trees, new benches, a nice pathway. The first part of the work is going to be setting up bollards with lighting leading to Isidore Goldberg Park on the side pathway. So I think in the next few weeks, we're going to see a beautiful, I say park, because it doesn't really have a name. And I will, as the chair of toponymy, call a meeting to consider naming that area, giving it a name. And I've got some great ideas that I'm sure committee members do as well. So very excited that we're adopting this tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously. And then we move to the next item, which is D, awarding of a contract for replacing fence sections. Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract for the replacing of fence sections on the baseball fields T2 and T3 at the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Park to Les Entreprises Ventec Inc. for a total amount of $249,950 plus applicable taxes. That furthermore, the city may consider an amount of 10% plus applicable taxes for any potential contingencies and extras if required, that shall first be approved according to the city's procedures. That the described expenses shall be financed from the capital investments bylaws number 2550, 2564, and 2587, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation. That treasurer certificate number TC-22-0091, dated May 24th, 2022, has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster, seconded by Councillor, who wants to do the fences? Councillor Cohen. Any discussion?
Just an explanation that this is to raise the height of the fencing of the baseball diamonds at Trudeau, T2 and T3, to, I believe, 50 feet, which is the standard height for safety measures with regard to fly balls. This was something that went to tender previously, but due to COVID was put on hold. The project had to be reconfigured and went to tender again, and here we are.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously, and we move to the last item under that section, which is E. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract for professional services regarding the installation of 380 residential water meters through the city to Tetra Tech QI Inc. for a total amount of $130,500 plus applicable taxes, that furthermore the city may consider an amount of $9,500 plus applicable taxes for any potential contingencies and extras, if required, that shall first be approved according to the city's procedures, that the described expenses shall be financed from the capital investment bylaw number 2583, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires Municipales et de l'Habitation, and that treasurer certificate number 22-0090 dated May 16, 2022, has been issued by the city treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Kajawski. Any discussion?
I'll give some background on this. So first, the city has, I should share, has already installed water meters on virtually all of what we call the ICI, the institutional, commercial, and industrial buildings. Now, in Côte Saint-Luc, we don't have truthfully very much industrial, but we have quite a lot of institutional and commercial. So virtually all of those have already had a water meter installed, and I should say as well, many of our multifamily buildings already have water meters. But what we are doing, and this is as a requirement, this is a requirement of the agglomeration, is to install water meters on a certain percentage of the homes and apartment buildings in Côte Saint-Luc. So for this year, we'll be installing meters at 380 buildings or 380 addresses. We did it quite randomly dispersed throughout the city, so it works out to just under 50 per district, including some homes, including some apartment building, or I should say, well, mostly homes and some apartment buildings. This tender, though, I should say, that we are approving is for the professional services. So this is for an engineering company that will oversee the project, and with a contractor that will be, that will be adopted a bit later on when that tender is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to mention, you're muted before. Well, at least I couldn't hear you.
Thanks a lot. Anyway, Councillor Kajawski, item number 12.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just getting there. Hold on one sec. Okay. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby awards a contract to BC2 Conseil Inc. for the services of a consultant for the period between March 24th, 2022 and September 30th, 2022 for a total amount of $78,750 plus applicable taxes. That treasurer certificate number 22-0093 dated May 27, 2022 has been issued by the city treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Kajawski. Seconded by Councillor Azarad. Any discussion?
So just to mention, this is actually a contract for company BC2 who has loaned us one of their employees to help us with permit issuance in the urban planning department. So we are actively recruiting for positions in the department, but in the interim, we need to make sure that we don't fall behind in the issuance of permits, especially now during the busy spring and summer season.
Thank you. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously, and we move to the site planning and architectural integration. So Councillor Kajawski, you'll lead all these through, both 12.1 and 12.2 and the subpoints. Start from the top.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Make sure I'm on the right resolution here. Am I on Banting? Yes, Banting. Okay. Be it resolved that the site planning and architectural integration program showing a rear extension and major renovations to an existing detached single-family dwelling on lot 156-1807 and prepared by Ariel A. Cohen, architect, for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of May 17th, 2022, and revised on June 3rd, 2022, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Moved by Councillor Gajewski, seconded by Councillor Azarad. Any discussion?
So I think the building is up on the screen. So it's a very nice renovation to a home on Banting. There was a revision, but really more of a different way of measuring the driveway slope. The only issue in the first iteration of the project was that the slope of the driveway is a little, or was deemed to be a little too extreme. We try to keep driveways from being too sloped in projects like this to avoid, should, God forbid, there be a water main break, that the basement of homes don't get flooded. So we try to limit the slope to 8%. But there are different ways of calculating that slope, depending on where you start the measurement, depending on the length of the driveway and the flatness at the bottom where the drain is. So there was, I believe, a slight adjustment made, but it was also a different method of measuring that slope. So we made sure that it wasn't too extreme, obviously, so the house wasn't at risk. And I think it'll be a very nice addition to Banting.
Thank you, Councillor Gajewski. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously. And now we move on to the next item. Wavell. Councillor Gajewski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the site planning and architectural integration program showing a rear extension to an existing detached single-family dwelling on lot 105-3826 and prepared by Concept Service Mod Inc., Ali Hammam, for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of May 17, 2022, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Moved by Councillor Gajewski, seconded by Councillor Azarad. Any discussion?
So this was a very well-received extension, a rear extension of a home on Wavell that I believe are going to be in a way integrated into our architectural guidelines as almost a guide of how to do a rear extension to your home. Very well thought out and won't have any negative impact on the neighbors in the back.
Excellent. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously. And now we move to McMurray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, be it resolved that the site planning and architectural integration program showing facade modifications to a detached single-family dwelling on lot 105-3248 and prepared by Maxim Guzun, architect, for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of May 17th, 2022, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Thank you, Councillor Gajewski, seconded by Councillor Azarad. Any discussion?
Okay, so this is McMurray. So it was a long time coming back and forth. Unfortunately, this project was built not according to the plans originally approved. So we came back to the table, and thank you to Melanie Rothband for working closely with the resident to find a good compromise that worked. And in fact, in my humble opinion, the final approved project here is actually, I believe, more attractive than the original approved project. So we found a very good compromise with the resident, and thank God we're going to have an attractive project on McMurray, right across the street from École de la Mosaïque.
Thank you, Councillor Gajewski. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of McMurray? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we need to move to minor exemptions. So we have 7002 Kildare. Councillor Gajewski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 7000-7002 Kildare, lot 1054653, being is hereby approved, the whole as more amply delineated hereunder. The request is to allow the detached two-family dwelling built in 1963 under permit number 1963-02129 to maintain its current north lateral setback of 3.81 meters instead of the minimum required lateral setback of 3.96 meters, and to maintain its current south lateral setback of 3.63 meters instead of the minimum required lateral setback of 3.96 meters. The whole notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw 2217 Annex B, Zone RB-8, and Article 4-4-2.
Moved by Councillor Kujawski, seconded by Councillor Azarad. Any discussion?
So this is just to legalize the north lateral setbacks and a lateral setback and maintain the south lateral setback of a home. We call this the minor exemption, basically due to more accurate land surveillance methods today as opposed to in 1963.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Everyone's in favor? Good. Councillor Sabag's in favor too. We're all in favor. Okay. In favor of the last item, everybody? Good. No one's opposed. It's carried unanimously, and we'll move on to Guelph.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 8031 Guelph, lot 105-2862, be and is hereby approved, the whole as more amply delineated hereunder. The request is to allow the detached single-family dwelling built in 1958 under permit number 1958-00658 to maintain its current front setback of 3.57 meters instead of the minimum required front setback of 4.57 meters, and to maintain its current secondary front setback of 3.88 meters instead of the minimum required secondary front setback of 4.57 meters. The whole, notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw number 2217 Annex B, Zone RU-20 and Article 4-4-1.
Okay, moved by Councillor Kujawski, seconded by Councillor Azarad. Any discussion?
So same as the previous item is to legalize the front setbacks and secondary front setbacks of a home on Guelph. It's a little less minor than the previous minor exemption, I'd say. One is at 1 meter. Essentially the home built at an incorrect location.
Okay.
To be legalized now. Thank you.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We go on to Banting.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 6852 Banting, lot 1561807, be and is hereby approved, the whole as more amply delineated hereunder. The request is to allow the construction of a rear extension as well as major renovations to an existing 2-story detached single-family dwelling with a minimum rear setback of 6.77 meters instead of the minimum required rear setback of 9.9 meters, with a maximum building height of 31 feet 3 inches instead of the maximum allowable height of approximately 27 feet 3 inches, measured from the city sidewalk as per the zoning bylaw, which states that the maximum authorized height of any building in the concerned zone shall be neither inferior nor superior by more than 25% in relation to the average height of the neighboring buildings located at less than 30 meters on the same side of the street. The whole, notwithstanding the provisions of bylaw number 2217, Annex B, Zone RU-31, Article 4-4-3, and Article 14-11-4.
Thank you, Councillor Kujawski, seconded by Councillor Azarad. Any discussion?
This is the minor exemption related to the home previously discussed at 6852 Banting. These minor exemptions were part of a compromise with the homeowners, I believe, with regards to a sloped roof. But again, it does conform. We're giving a minor exemption, but it fits in with the streetscape of Banting.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Everyone in favor? Nobody opposed? It's carried unanimously. Councillor Cohn's in favor too, Banting? Yeah. Okay. All right, great. So now we move to the stance at the Aglo. Councillor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the council take the following stance in view of any agglomeration council meeting to be held in July 2022 as follows: to authorize the mayor or his duly authorized replacement to make any decisions he deems necessary and in the best interest of the city of Côte Saint-Luc and its residents regarding the items on the agenda of the agglomeration council meeting to be held in July 2022 based on the information to be presented during those meetings.
Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Schuster. Any discussion? It's the standard every month. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we go to other business. And I know Councillor Schuster has an item to add to the agenda under other business. Councillor Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The topic is the Nathan Schuster Park bathrooms. I have a resolution to read out. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby awards a contract for the purchase of an outdoor bathroom for Nathan Schuster Park to Darcom Innovations, Inc. for an amount not to exceed $79,100 plus applicable taxes, that the described expenses shall be financed.
Excuse me.
Shall be financed. Please mute, yes. That the described expenses shall be financed from the loan bylaw 2543, and that the city's restricted cumulative surplus small parks projects, that treasurer's certificate number 22-0102 dated June 6th, 2022 has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Schuster. Moved by Councillor Schuster, seconded by Schuster Park, Councillor Azarad. Any discussion, Councillor Schuster?
Just an explanation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're putting in a new outdoor bathroom at Nathan Schuster Park that is designed for accessibility. That's wheelchairs, walkers, strollers, and other special needs. We found a Quebec supplier that specializes in manufacturing these style bathrooms for outdoor spaces. And the new unit will include a 2-section bathroom complete with sinks, toilets, changing tables, and urinals. And now that this item is moving forward, we can anticipate installation, I would estimate conservatively, towards the end of the summer.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried unanimously. These will be excellent bathrooms for handicapped and carriages. Wonderful. So now we go to the second question period. Do we have any questions?
I have none.
Okay, and I know it's been on the screen for quite some time, so I will call for adjournment.
So it'll be moved.
Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Cohen. All in favor? So we are adjourned. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.